about the book, Sir Simon?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. So I got my own copy here of Mr. Little Simon. When I before I started writing Simon, I always kind of wanted to make a ghost story, and I wasn't really sure like what kind of story. Like I love hearing about ghost stories from people, and then I'm always like, are ghosts real? Are ghosts out there? And so I was like, well, what kind of ghost story would I make if I ever wrote one? And for me, whenever I heard about ghosts, I always heard like ghosts were kind of in an attic, like making banging sounds or kind of stomping around, or maybe they're creaking stairs or lights were flickering. And it always kind of seemed a little boring to me. Like I always thought, man, as a ghost, all you're doing is like creaking stairs all night, or you're like having to hang out in an attic and just kind of stomp around. And so I was like, well, maybe like I'll write a story about a ghost who doesn't really want to be a ghost, who doesn't like doing all his ghostly stuff. And so then that's kind of how Little Sir Simon started, is I thought maybe I could do a ghost that doesn't like doing his ghost chores. And it all started with that idea. And then from there, I kind of thought maybe it's about a ghost getting his first haunted house. Oh yeah, there's Little Simon and his sweet little ghost chores. And it could be about him and maybe a kid that kind of moves into the house, and how would they get along? And maybe it's about like a kid and a ghost finding they have things in common. And so it all kind of started with that, and then became this little sassy kind of ghost that I really like drawing. And I kind of like drawing a ghost with all these fun expressions, kind of like his little ooh face. Where is he? There he is. Oh, yeah. Haunting a potato. And all the weird things maybe he haunted as a ghost, because you kind of hear stories like a ghost haunting a house or a ghost haunting a forest. And I thought, well, maybe ghosts haunt all sorts of stuff. Maybe they haunt potatoes. Maybe if they like sit on a chair, is that chair a haunted chair? If they're like eating a piece of pizza, is that pizza now haunted? And so I kind of like those ideas. And that's kind of how Simon kind of came to be. And hopefully that, I don't know, answers something maybe.
Awesome.
So how long does it take you to write a book?
Well, that's a good question. It can be like really quick and really long. Sometimes maybe I'll get it in like a week of trying to write. And then other times it can take me like a year. And so it really can go either way. With a book like Simon, he probably took a couple months for me to write, where I tried to write the whole story, and then I'll work with someone who's an editor, and they help me kind of make the book, and they'll give me advice or feedback. And so sometimes when I get that feedback, I'll have to like rewrite the whole book, because she'll be like, well, it's good. Yeah, I like Simon, but maybe we'll have Simon haunt a house instead of what you have here. And so for me, it just takes writing the story a couple times, and that can take a couple months, because I find it really hard to write sometimes, and to try to think of like, well, what are the right words that I want to say for Simon's voice? Or what are the right words I want to say for Chester? And so sometimes, yeah, it can take me a couple months. And I mean, from start to finish, it can take about a year.
Right now, question is, does anyone help you when making the book?
Yeah, that's also a really good question. I try to get as many people to help me as I can, because the thing I find hard is sometimes if I'm just on my own working on my book and working on Simon, that I can kind of get my own little bubble. And so sometimes I can't see things that aren't really maybe working. And so I'll get help from friends. I'll get help from my wife, Jessica, who also makes books. And then later on, I'll get help from my editor. And she's the one who kind of really helps me make sure the book's ready to be turned into a real book like Simon. And so she can give me that really good feedback, like, okay, we got to cut all this stuff out of it, because it's just, we don't know what's happening with the story here. And maybe we can put some of this stuff in. And so it's all these people that really help you figure out, like, how can you tell the story like the best way so that it's really funny, or so that's just getting kind of across.
The first question is, what inspired you to become an author?
I don't know. I've always been kind of like writing stories ever since I was your guys' age. I always just loved trying to kind of make up characters and draw pictures, and try to do like comic strips or try to do comic books. And so it was doing all those things that kind of gave me a love for trying to tell my own stories. And so I think it was like taking everything in, like watching cartoons or reading comics or watching movies or reading books, all those things kind of just made me want to do it myself. And I don't know if you guys also like writing your own stories or drawing pictures, but it kind of all started with me with just loving to draw pictures and then trying to kind of make up stories for those pictures or those characters.
Mhm.
How long does it take to publish a book?
That's a good question. I think it usually takes at least like a year, sometimes maybe longer, where like I'll start working on a book like Simon, and then it won't be in stores for almost 2 years. And so it's so long before you actually get to see people read your story that you can almost forget that it's coming out, because 2 years is such a long time. I actually have, I don't know if it's going to be a question that comes up, so sorry if it is, but I have another Simon story that is going to be coming out, and it's still not coming out until next year, and I started working on it last year at some point, so it can take a super long time.
What inspires your drawings?
I don't know. I think like kind of everything does, from like stuff I watch to stuff I like see. If I like kind of go out and hang out or just like spend time with my dog Charlie, I can just kind of get ideas and then want to draw them. I think like with Simon, where I just love the idea of ghosts, so I just wanted to draw some ghosts. I think it's kind of like just getting them from everywhere and kind of everything. From things I do to things I watch.
What books did you write?
I have written, what books have I written? I've written, I think, 7 books. A book called, I have them somewhere, but they're way over I have a bookshelf back there in the other room. I wrote a book called To the Sea, which is about a whale named Sam and a boy named Tim. I wrote a book called Explorers of the Wild. A book called, I think, Jessica, my wife, is actually grabbing those books for me right now so I could show them. She's super awesome and helpful, and I'm super unprepared.
Do you want any
Thanks,
of
though.
those?
No, that's okay. That's perfect. Thank you. There's To the Sea, which is the first book I ever wrote, was this book. Let me shine some light. And yeah, it's about a whale named Sam and a boy named Tim, and they become friends, and Tim has to help Sam get back to the sea because he's lost. And then another book I wrote is called Explorers of the Wild, which looks like this. And it's about 2 characters that love exploring in the wild and in the woods, and then they decide to start doing it together when they run into each other. Let's see, what else do we got here? Another one is called Where Oliver Fits. And it's about a little puzzle piece. Where is he? There's little Oliver. And he's kind of trying to find where does he fit in kind of the big puzzle of all these pieces. Is he going to be part of like a pirate puzzle or like a outer space puzzle? And it's kind of him trying to find that out. Another one I wrote is called Off and Away. It's about a girl named Jo. And Jo, her dad finds and delivers all the messages in bottles at sea. There, she's got one. And so when her dad gets sick, Jo has to kind of step up and go and deliver all the messages in bottles for him. And one more I got here is Unicorns 101. It's the last one that I wrote that came out. And it's a book full of unicorn facts, teaching everybody all the things you need to know about unicorns. You can see there's a inside of a unicorn. You can see what a unicorn eats. Oops. Yeah, it's a pretty fun, crazy book. And so those are some of the books that I've written.
What are your books mostly about?
That's a good question. Looking at them now, I think besides Unicorns 101, they're kind of, I think a lot of them are about maybe like about friendship. And I think a lot of them are trying to like show that kind of caring for others a bit as well in there. And like kind of how we're all the same a little bit no matter what. But they're all a little bit different. if you guys get a chance to read some of my other ones, you'll have to tell me that, because sometimes I can't really tell what I'm writing about.
What kind of style of illustrations do you like to do?
I think I like to do kind of like fun, kind of simple drawings. Like I like simple shapes. And like, I think that's why I like drawing Simon, because he's kind of easy to draw, but he kind of gets across what he is really easy. Let's see. Kind of like little Simon. And so I like kind of those really easy to draw shapes. And for me, I'm not a big fan of drawing really realistic pictures. I'm also just not really that good at it. But I kind of like drawing things that are a little bit more cartoony and maybe a little bit simple in shapes. And I like bright colors and trying to play around with color and to see like, well, if I try all these different colors, what kind of images can I paint? There's, let me just shine a picture. There's Joe and Off and Away. But I like playing with color a lot in my drawings. And for me, a lot of the time, that's just really trying new things because I don't really know what I'm doing at all. And so I kind of just have to try a lot of things and do enough kind of bad drawings that I start to get some good drawings, if that makes sense. And then just trying new things to see what I like.
My last question is, when did you start writing books?
I started trying to write my own books, again, probably when I was about your age. None of them really got made into like a real book in a store, but I was trying to write my own stories ever since I was really young. And then my first book, the To the Sea book, that one got made in 2015, so like 5 years ago. And so that's when I actually got my first book made in a real store where I could see it and it could get out to other people.
My first question is, why did you write this story?
I wrote Simon, I think again, just because I really love the idea of trying to write a story about a ghost. And kind of I see other ones where they make kind of scary stories about ghosts, or maybe like ghost stories that can only be around for like Halloween.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to write a ghost story that maybe could be read at any time of the year. And it wasn't really a scary ghost story, more just kind of like, to me, what it would be like to be a ghost. And so I wanted to try to tell that story.
Okay. My second question is, do you like ghosts?
I do, yeah. I like ghosts a lot. I've never gotten to meet a real ghost. I'm always looking, but I haven't met one yet. So when I meet a real one, we'll see if we become friends. And I'll ask him if he's ever haunted anything weird like a potato.
Okay.
What inspired you to write Sir Simon?
I think the inspiration was mostly like the ghost stories and stuff, and kind of all the things I've heard about ghosts. And so that kind of really inspired me to try to figure out like, okay, if I'm a ghost, what would my story be like? And it would probably be like Simon's story. I'd want to like sit in an attic and do all my hobbies. And I'd be like, I don't really want to haunt anything. I want to just write my own stories and paint some pictures and stuff.
Have you written more than one book about Sir Simon?
That's a great question. I have now. Sir Simon, this book was my first one. And then I'm working on 2 more right now. Maybe I have some pictures right around here, where I'm going to make 2 more Simon books, and they're going to be kind of like almost graphic novels. And so in the first one, Simon and Chester decide to become detectives. There's a little detective Simon. There's Chester all decked out as well. And so they decide to become detectives and solve some cases. And what else do we have here? There's just more crazy pictures of Simon. I don't know how easy they're to see. And in the book, they find a pug. There's the pug. And then they got to figure out where the pug came from and find its home. And so I'm working on those right now. So hopefully there'll be more and more Simon books.
How many books have you written?
I've written 8 or 9 books now, and 7 of them have come out. So I have a couple books still coming out. I think, let me see quick. More stuff in my little shelf here. My next book that's going to come out in like 2 months, I think, in August, is kind of like a sequel to the Unicorn book. So instead of Unicorns 101, my next book is Monsters 101, which is a bunch of crazy monster facts, which is full of, crazy different types of monsters, where I got to make up my own monsters and put in some monsters that we've all heard of. I have just all the loose little pages here, but there's a whole bunch of monsters. There's kind of a Simon in there I hid. I got to put Simon wherever I can. And so I think this book will be my 8th book.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that's all the questions I have.
Okay, thanks so much.
Okay.
Do you guys want to see how I draw Simon at all quick?
Yes.
Let me see if I can do this. I'm going to try to
Yes,
tilt
please.
my, I got to tilt my computer screen, so I can't really see you guys, but hopefully you'll be able to see what I'm drawing.
Can we go try to do it?
Because let's see. Can you guys see my paper there?
Yeah.
As I move stuff around.
Yes.
Because Simon's might be a little upside down. I'll try to draw him sideways. Because if I'm drawing Simon, I pretty much start with just kind of like a big mountain top, like that there. And I pretty much just draw his 3 little ghost little lumps at the bottom. And then give him some kind of a sassy face. So he's just got his 2 eyes. And then I like to give him little lips. And maybe like a serious brow, because he's all super serious. And then his little hands on his hips. And a little shadow to float. And then the other thing I always love to do, which I'll try to do here quick, is I love doing animation as well. And a really easy, simple way to do animation is you put a new piece of paper over top your first drawing. So I have my Simon underneath here. And then I'm going to trace my drawing, but I'm going to change a couple of things. So I'm going to trace my little Simon. Boop, boop, boop. And I'm going to give him maybe a smile now instead of his sassy look. Let's see. Whoop. And maybe his little arms can go up now instead. He's not so grumpy. Can you guys see him?
Yeah.
Let me try to turn. There we go. That's probably a little bit easier to see maybe. And then if you flip him really quick, you can start to see the movement in him. Which is hard to do on here. But that's kind of if I'm ever trying to do animation, that's kind of an easy way to do it. And if I wanted to keep doing it, I'd put another piece of paper over top this one and then trace it and change it a little bit more. And then slowly I could make Simon dance or move around. And it's always a fun thing I like doing as well.
What was that thing that was walking on the floor?
Did you see my dog?
Dog?
Hopefully. Otherwise there's something in my place that I don't know, which would be kind of scary. You might have seen, this thing right here.
Can I show you my dog?
Yeah, that sounds great. This is Charlie. She's our little dog, our little guard dog. She doesn't do a lot of guarding. Right, Charlie? She's like, I don't want to be up here. I'm getting out of here. Yeah, I mean, and again, I just hope if you guys like writing your own stories or drawing your own pictures, that you really just keep doing it. And that's really how I started, and that's how I'm able to do what I do now, is I just kept drawing ever since I was your guys' age. And after drawing enough and telling enough stories, I could slowly start making my own books and stuff. So I really hope you guys keep doing it, because I'd love to read your stories.
Yes. Well, yes. And congratulations on your win of the Saskatchewan Young Readers Choice Awards, the Willow Awards. We're
Thank you
super
so much.
excited for you. Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe we can clap for Cale again. What do you guys think? Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all your questions as well. I hope you guys all have an awesome day.
Thank you.